File 9. Listening 2. Speaker 1.
I had a bit of a cooking disaster once. I was cooking for my in-laws and new wife, and I decided to make a chili con carne. And I'd made this meal plenty of times before, but I'd always used canned red kidney beans. And this one particular time, I thought I'd use, normal kidney beans that you have to soak or whatever. So I soaked them overnight, and that was all fine. But what I didn't realize was you also had to cook them before they went in the chili. I thought soaking them was enough. So I made the chili, put in the meat, the kidney beans, stirred it all around for about 5 minutes, thought I'd made a great meal, served it up, and of course the red kidney beans were rock hard and nobody could eat them. So a few people were trying to be polite and trying to crunch them up, but that's not very healthy. So they took them out. So basically we had chili without the meat, with the meat, but without the beans.
Speaker 2.
I've only ever had one cooking disaster. Honestly, calamari. I wanted to deep fry the calamari, and everybody was very hungry, and I hadn't made a batter. I'd just done a quick flour, a seasoned flour mix in a plastic bag, which I'd put the squid rings into and then shake so all the calamari gets covered in the flour, so it's just a dusting. I heated up the oil, and as everyone was so hungry, I didn't do it a little bit at a time, which is what I should have done, of course. I put too much of the calamari in the boiling oil, which then made the boiling oil bubble right over the saucepan and all onto the top of the stove. And that is truly a cooking disaster.
Speaker 3. I've just had one of the most embarrassing cooking disasters. I was cooking for my husband and some friends of ours, and we were actually on vacation in New Zealand, and I decided to do my specialty dish, which is a spicy chickpea and halloumi cheese chili. Now, it's gone over so well with all my friends here in the U.S., so I thought, I'll try it on my friends in New Zealand. Now, unfortunately, over there, you couldn't get chili powder. You could only get chili flakes, and I had no idea how many chili flakes I needed to put into the dish, and I always used to put a teaspoon of chili powder into mine. So I asked the guy that we were staying with, and he said, with chili flakes, you have to put double the amount in. So I put in my 2 teaspoons full of chili flakes into the dish, and I'm sure you can imagine it was absolutely disgusting. It was completely inedible, literally blew your head off when you were trying to even smell it, let alone take a taste of it. So, yeah, I have to say that is my worst cooking disaster. Speaker 4.
This is something that happened when I took my daughter to visit my mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law was taking care of her for the day. I dropped her off and said, "Oh, look, here are some chicken drumsticks. This is what she likes for lunch," and left to go to work. I came back just after lunch, and the children were still eating their meal, and my daughter looked up at me and said, "Mommy, my chicken is really chewy. It tastes good, but it's really chewy." And I said, well, that should be all right. And I looked more closely only to see that my daughter was eating a raw chicken drumstick. My mother-in-law had thought that the chicken drumsticks were already cooked, and they weren't. So I immediately told my daughter to stop eating the chicken, put it down, and we waited to see if she would get sick or not. Luckily, she didn't.
Speaker 5.
Cooking disaster? Yes, well, I've had a few. But the one that sticks out in my memory is when I was cooking a couple of sirloin steaks, and to save some time, I'd already heated up the oil. It was olive oil, actually, in a frying pan. But to save some time, I decided to sort of throw them flamboyantly across the kitchen and into the frying pan, because I thought that looked very chef-like. But as I threw the second one in, it sort of landed with a flop and squirted boiling hot olive oil right up in the air and straight into my face. Actually, it was all right because when I got to the emergency room, they just gave me some codeine pills for the pain and just took a look, made sure my eye wasn't damaged, and I just put a cold compress on it. And eventually it bubbled up into a blister here and there on my face, but then it went away.